Hi, and welcome back to Small Town Murders. I'm your host, Faith.
And I'm your co-host, Reese.
Small Town Murders is a podcast where we talk about small towns and how they aren't the safe havens many people think they are. So shut off your lights and lock your doors. This is the case of the Bay-Lo grocery store massacre. Okay, we're back with another case, back at it, Reese and Faith. We were on a little bit of a break, spring break. It was great.
Yeah.
That's a little update on our lives. But like we said, we're covering a case called the Bay-Lo grocery store massacre. This is an unsolved case, actually.
We haven't done one of those
We
yet.
haven't, and I'm very excited to do it. Not excited. I don't know. I'm intrigued by unsolved cases, And I feel like we can come up with our own theories, So this happened the night of June 6, 1993. In Bertie County, North Carolina, specifically Windsor, that's the town. June 6th was a Sunday. So all the stores were, closing early. Not a lot of people were around. We were in the South. A lot of people are having, Sunday dinner. Yeah. So Bay-Lo, the grocery store, we don't have this grocery chain up north, but I think it's more of a southern thing.
Yeah.
They closed down at 6. So we're going to get into this but we're going to get into the people around. Mm-hmm. So we know, get the setting of the story.
Get the visuals. The pieces to the puzzle that we need to see this go.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, on the night of June 6th, the Bay-Lo was closing. So we have two people we need to know about right now. We have Grover Lee Cecil, otherwise known as Bud, so I will be referring to him as Bud. Mm-hmm. And then we have Joyce Coburn. She was a mother and a cashier. Now, at closing, Bud was walking around the store, making sure no customers were left, and Joyce was at the front register. Mm-hmm. So they're all cleaning up, getting ready, so Bud does his rounds, and he starts to walk to the front of the store, and he locks the doors at the front of the store.
Yeah.
Locking up,
Getting everything situated.
Mm-hmm. So he's at the front of the store where, the cash registers are, so Joyce doesn't hear him. So as soon as he locks these doors, a man comes around, and he's thinking, oh, this is a customer that I just missed,
Yeah.
He can go pay, and then it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, but what he didn't know was this man had a .45 caliber handgun.
That doesn't mean he's a normal customer.
Yeah, and he was demanding money to be put in a plastic bag, and he would eventually get away with $3,000, but this wasn't the main motive. We'll get into what theories are. Mm-hmm. So, another thing we need to know is there was a 4-person cleaning crew on that night because they were going to be re-waxing the floors, so the floors were nice and shiny.
Yeah.
But we will get into the cleaning crew later. We'll introduce them as the case progresses.
Yes.
Right now, we're kind of doing a timeline. So, a description of this male that we have was he was a black male with a medium complexion. Mm-hmm. He was around 30, 35 years of age. He had a slender, solid build, a military-style haircut, so cropped on the sides, and light brown slanted eyes, and a narrow nose bridge. It could have been from a possible sports injury. That's what the North Carolina FBI office site said. And he was around 6'2", 6 foot, and 175 to 200 pounds. So once he demands this money from Joyce and Bud, he orders them to walk in front of him. So they're walking down the aisles of the store while the cleaning crew was getting in, prepping, and we will get into the first two. So there are going to be 2 more victims. He's going to grab the other 2 when he sees them walking about, and they are brothers, Jasper Hardy Jr. and Thomas Hardy.
Okay.
Now, when this happened and the man is ordering them, they're like, what are you doing? This is just a robbery. But Bud said to do what the man wanted because he, quote unquote, meant business. And when Thomas noticed the man had a gun, he was like, we need to listen to this guy.
Yeah,
so
you don't mess around when there's somebody when you're at gunpoint, basically.
Yeah, most likely just follow what you want. You have a better chance of getting out. So he grabs them, and he also grabs 2 more victims, but we'll get into their names later.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts leading them to the back of the store where the meat counter is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's leading them behind the counter.
Okay.
Seemed very familiar with this store layout.
Yeah, like he might have been like lived near, like grew up around that area.
Well, we have a theory on that.
Oh.
So the workers are like, could he, like, and police were like, could he have planned this attack? Like, was he watching? Like, how did he know? Because he actually noticed, so there was one person missing when he was leading them behind the counter and went to grab them. So, like, he knew how many people were on.
Yeah, it's like he knew what the schedule was going to be.
So, like, was there, like, some kind of connection? Like, how did he know this?
Like, family member worked there, told him, like, oh, I'm working with these people, or I'm off when they are.
Yeah. And he also did not look nervous. Like, he didn't have, like, any shaking in his voice. Like, it seemed like he had experience. Which, like, if you're holding 6 people at gunpoint, I would doubt you didn't have experience.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you need to know what you're doing. Like, I feel like the killers that we've covered and seen on podcasts, like, if it's their first kill, like, they're usually going with 1 or 2 people that they can easily overpower. But he has 6 people lined up.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, he wants to bind the victims. So he goes down the aisles and gets dog leashes. So he forces the employees to bind each other with the dog leashes and duct tape. I believe he brought the duct tape himself or he found it in the store. To my research, I don't know where the duct tape is from, but I know the leashes were from the store. And he was back, like, quick, so he knew where the dog leashes were in the store.
Yeah.
He wasn't, like, looking for a long time. They were all bound, and they were, like, on their stomachs. So at this point, the killer starts speaking. At that point, he really didn't say a lot besides, like, his orders.
Yeah.
He said that he was a former police officer that had been fired for a drug deal gone wrong and had nothing to lose. He had no emotion or anything.
So he was just numb.
No. He was just like he's like, I'm a former police officer, this drug deal gone wrong, like very monotone, like no emotion. Now this is where the case gets really bad. So I would invite you to click off if you're very squeamish or if this kind of thing bothers you, because we will be getting into a gory description. So I have a diagram for you.
Oh.
I drew it myself because I need to, and this will also be on the website so people know what I'm talking about. So he forced the victims, he's like, get up. And he forced them to lay on top of each other by 2. So, like, 2 people were on top of each other. But it was by 3. So, like, let me show you what I drew. Reese.
Okay. Okay, I see what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're laying like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bodies. So that I drew, which I'm not an artist, so guys, don't judge me on that on the podcast. So after he, like, gets these guys into stacks, these people in the stacks, he prayed first. He's like, God, please forgive me for what I'm about to do. I believe that's what he said. Due to
So
eyewitness
he
accounts.
has, like, a sense of this isn't a very good thing to do.
Like
this
a
isn't
sense of-
something
yeah.
you should do.
Like a sense of right and wrong.
Yeah.
Like remorse. He has remorse for what he's about to do. And he shot the first person on top of the stack. So that was Bud, Joyce, and Johnny. And another bullet, so I believe it was in one of the brothers. Since one was shot in the back, I don't know who was shot in the back. And then the other 2 were shot in the head. And when the bullet, like, went through, because it's a 45, they make, if you don't know what a 45 bullet hole looks like, they make big holes.
Yeah, they are pretty good.
And hit one in the back of the head, but he survived. like just
wow.
ricocheted off. So it was like a piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
So people are probably wondering, why would this killer stack?
Mm-hmm.
So apparently he tried to get a fourth shot, but either he was out of rounds or the gun jammed, and the gunman got frustrated. He was upset.
Yeah.
So he dismembers the groups. Like he's like pulling people off, and now everyone's still laying on their stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked out. We don't know where he is right now.
Yeah, he's mystery place.
Yeah.
You just left.
Yeah. Now, the Hardy brothers are not injured, who we talked about, Thomas and Jasper.
Mm-hmm.
They're still not injured. But the gunman walks back with a meat cleaver. Remember, they were behind the meat counter? So that's presumably where they got the knife.
Yeah.
So he starts hacking at Thomas with this meat cleaver. But before that, he asked if he would tell the police about him.
Yes.
And he said, no, I won't, like begging for his life. And he said, I don't believe you, and just started stabbing him. But he stabbed Thomas so violently that the blade came off.
Oh, wow. And those aren't very, like, flimsy knives. Those
Meat cleavers are heavy duty.
Yeah.
But Jasper was still uninjured because after he violently stabbed Thomas, he asked Jasper, are you going to tell the police of what I look like? And he goes, no, because I didn't get a good look at your face. I can't identify you. And for some reason, he did not injure Jasper.
So it was basically like, okay, I believe you.
But for some reason, that's why I'm confused about this case, because how could he say almost the exact thing as Thomas?
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know if he was just tired of killing.
Or like
if he didn't have any weapons left.
Yeah.
So when he leaves the store, he takes the keys and the money, and the weapon remains. So he took, like, the handle to the knife, like, stuff like that. Now, only Welch, which was the victim that we have not talked about, I believe he was the one that got injured from the shot coming underneath him. Like, he was the only one able to get up because when he was bound with duct tape, he was able to get out of the bindings because of the blood, like, loosening the adhesive. Like, the blood all around him, like, he was able to wiggle out.
Yeah, like the sticky part got covered so he could just
wiggled
shimmy
out
his way out.
And he was also the least injured, and his bindings were the least tight. I mean, like, Jasper wasn't injured, but I'm guessing his bindings were too tight.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to play you a clip of some police scanners and a 911 call. Okay.
Attention, Bertie Rescue, checking for traffic. We have 1033 traffic, 1033 traffic at Speedways in Windsor. Subject has been shot. Attention, Bertie Rescue, checking for 1033 traffic, 1033 traffic. You're needed in Windsor at Speedways. Bertie Rescue needs your assistance. 10-4, be advised, East Care down. They're going to try and send them by ground. 10-4, you probably can go ahead and try Nightingale. Get Bertie Hospital to do it. 10-4, can you advise about how many you think we got? I think we have at least 3 more in the building, I'm not sure. 10-4, are they out yet, or are they still inside? We advise that what we have left in the store, DOA. 10-4.
So if you couldn't hear that properly, the first couple seconds is that 911 call where Welch is panicking, saying, like, he's at the speedo, and people are injured. And the police scanners were just talking about where it is and things like that. So the end of that, you might have heard a police officer saying we have 3 DOA. DOA means dead on arrival. Now, when EMS was arriving and police were arriving, it was too late for Bud, Joyce, and Johnny. Those are our 3 victims that have passed away. Welch and Thomas spent time in critical care in the hospital, and then Jasper and everyone who was alive had this horrifying mental trauma.
Of course. I mean, they just went through something horrific.
So one of the victims that made it out described feeling like when they were shot, the stacks were shot at, feeling the pressure from the bullet, like when the body jolted on top of them. Like, could feel the pressure of it. That's horrifying.
Yeah, I could never imagine what.
I can't even imagine, like, being in that situation. Like,
yeah.
How police were horrified when they looked at the scene. Blood was from the back to front of the store, like, everywhere. And they got behind this meat counter. It was just drenched in blood, which is how people could get out of their bindings. Mm-hmm. And so EMS were getting back there, getting everyone loaded up, and police were looking at the scene. They found 2 sets of shoe prints, but it was found that one was EMS and one has never been identified.
So that might just be the killers.
Yeah, so first they thought it was a robbery gone wrong because they didn't have any eyewitness accounts yet because they were all too shaken. They just got out of this horrifying situation that will affect them for the rest of their lives. Like, they need a minute. So once, like, eyewitnesses told them, like, the victims told them, they figured out the police officer tip from, if we remember, in the beginning part of this episode when we had the suspect saying, like, I was fired from my job, I was a cop because of a drug deal. But they, like, got a list of all these, like, fired or retired officers and nothing was found from it.
Yeah. So
people were thinking, like, maybe this was just to make the cops look bad. You know, maybe he was a dealer and the cops did something to him. So he's mixing the story up. That was one of the theories. Now, why we knew he wasn't a police officer is he only had one magazine or, like, mag for his gun. Police officers always carry more than one. And also 45s hold more than 3 rounds.
Yeah, that's...
So, like, if he only had 3 rounds, a theory for why he stacked them was he underestimated the amount of people there. So he was improvising the killing almost.
Like, he knew he didn't have that many bullets and there was too many people.
And also, cops only use 9mm because 45s, a police officer said this. Windsor Officer Perry said they don't use 45s because they leave nasty holes. Which is why, obviously. So let's get into some theories. This is the night. So, first of all, Windsor had a large drug problem. You know, a lot of places have drug problems nowadays.
Yes, unfortunately.
Now, like we said before, could he have been a dealer and someone wronged him during a deal? You know, he was most likely somebody who knew the area, but was just passing through. And it was most likely not aimed at anybody, you know?
Yeah, like he wasn't purposely going for the person.
Yeah. And I believe Officer Perry said again that this was the worst crime he has seen in 25 years.
I mean, they are in, like, a more smaller town, so a lot of big crimes are less common there, but it's still horrific what happened.
But in 25 years, you know?
Like, that is a very long time.
That is, like, a quarter of a century that he has been working, and this is the worst he's ever seen.
Yeah.
So we have a couple witness accounts driving from the scene. So from the direction of the scene, there was a white car with Maryland plates speeding down Route 17 north, away from the murder.
Okay.
And there were 2 men seen. So there could be a possible getaway driver. So,
yeah,
you know, it could have been, you know, it could have been this could have been a 2-man job. You know, it wasn't their first crime. That was definitely apparent. It was not their first.
Yes.
And, you know, like, could he have been waiting outside this whole time? Like,
Could he
one went
even
in?
have been in the store, but no one's seen him?
That's
Really?
definitely a possibility at this point, because if this is unsolved, like, we need everything we can get. you
Yeah.
know?
Everything is on the table until proven that it wasn't.
Definitely. So let's get into the theories of this. There's there's a bunch of them, but they kind of fit into two categories.
Yeah.
So the first we have, like, it was committed at random, killed just to kill, and, like, had no connection to the area and just wanted to commit something violent.
Yeah.
So he probably, like, saw the store first, saw the blind spots, was aware of the knives, and had experience, obviously. Because, like, if you're shooting into the pile and you know you could probably kill people with a .45, 2 people through, you probably have experience with your weapon.
Yes. He
So,
obviously knows the ins and outs and all of the mechanics.
so he had no connection to the area, and as soon as he committed this crime, he never returned.
So he did this and then vanished.
He just murdered to murdered. He
Yeah.
like a lot of killers who are serial killers, they kill for the thrill.
Yeah.
They want adrenaline,
They want that rush of, I just did something bad.
and they want to keep doing it. This is their way of, like, doing something fun. You know, like,
In the most messed up way
in
possible.
the most, yes, definitely.
It's their fun.
Yeah. So the second theory is that it was based on someone at the store. Someone at the store had something on them, and they did not want anybody to know about it, and it was still violent just to be violent. And he could have lived in the town and came there to kill, or he could still be living there at this time.
Just the thought of the possibility of this killer being in the same town, like, especially for, like, the neighbors around that area, like, that would be terrifying to know if it ever got, like, confirmed. Oh yes, this man that killed this many people, like, has still been living here for the past, how many years has it been? Like, almost 30?
It has been 30 years this year. But I can connect this to, like, the Golden State Killer. When he was captured, he was, like, 90, and he was still living in the same place, and he had, like, a wife and kids. Like, this could
So,
be
like,
the same
this-
situation.
Yeah, it very well could be. Like,
It's just
this
crazy to me.
happened and they never caught him, and he just continued like a normal life, like
it's
getting
insane
a
to me.
wife and kids, going home to his wife and kids.
Like, his wife probably doesn't know anything, or his partner, and his kids don't know anything. They probably have no suspicion because he's keeping it outside of the home, or maybe he never committed a crime after that. So, like I said, 30 years later, so they have DNA, fingerprints, and shoe prints, but they still have not found this man. So, but it's possibly not his first crime. So they,
Yeah,
But in the 90s, they didn't have, like, crazy DNA advancements. They
Yes.
probably didn't know how to collect it.
they didn't have the technology we do now.
If he committed crimes after this, he could possibly be in a database somewhere. But we don't know. So, but Windsor police are really hopeful with the advancements in DNA now, like the crazy advancements, like we can tell what country of origin you are from now. And to find the killer at this point. That's their only hope.
He still hasn't been caught for
30
all
years.
these years.
So, like, the cops say, like, this case still keeps them up at night.
I can imagine.
Like, because most of them are retired now, but it still keeps them up at night.
And I can't imagine the lives of the victims that survived.
Yeah, they are...
Like,
They
not
have-
having
yeah.
the justice that they deserve to get.
It was so horrible, and the fact that not even any victim of this crime, hasn't made it, hasn't gotten their justice that they deserve is horrible. So, the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, I'm going to say this because this was on their site, if you have any information about this case, you could have maybe remembered this or maybe have seen this, but you don't know.
Yeah.
Call the Windsor Police Department at 252-794-3111. Again, the Windsor Police Department, 252-794-3111. There is also a possible $30,000 reward for any information that leads to this case being solved.
Which, even if there wasn't a reward for finding this person, I personally, if I knew anything, I would immediately go to say something. It's not about the money. It's not about the reward that you get. It's more about the justice for the people who need it.
Definitely. And like we always say at the end of these podcasts, remember these victims had lives, these people have families, and these people were real people. Always remember that. So I think this is the end of our podcast today.
This is the end of episode 3.
So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Small Town Murders. I'm your host, Faith.
And I'm your co-host, Reese.
And we're out.